Hello everyone, welcome to the new Azure Fundamental Series, Cloud Monitoring Tuesday, with you, me, Igor Shestitka. I'm Microsoft MVP. We will talk later about, but most idea of this series, we will try to explain you how Azure Monitoring work, what tools you can use, how you can use these tools, and provide you additional details like very useful code for monitoring, for the KUSTO query, for any other different tools that you can directly use inside your solution of Azure. And of course, today it's a first video, first webcast of this series, Azure Monitoring Strategy and Tools Review. We will talk about globally about this solution, etc. And by the way, you can use this QR code to have additional information about the Azure Monitoring, to look on the learning path, to look on the additional learning materials on Microsoft websites, etc. So on many slides you can see this QR code. So this is the same QR code, by the way, and you can use it, scan from your mobile phone to join Microsoft Learning, Microsoft Learning Path, Microsoft documentation. And of course, about me, a few things. My name again, Igor Shestitka. I'm Microsoft MVP. My roles, I had a lot of roles, but last roles on my career, it's Senior Manager Azure Cloud Operation, it's Cloud Infrastructure Architect, Senior Infrastructure and Security Consultant, etc. You can find me by this or contact me by this email, and based on the different position, it's like you can see Microsoft, more than 10 years. I own my IT company in my home country, Slovakia, more than 5 years. Of course, I work for UAE Etisalat and continue to work with different UAE customers. Plus, I have my video YouTube channel, video blogging. You can find it here, and there is a mix of native language and English language video, especially for the technology. You can find a lot of technology English video, plus some backgrounds like MVP, computer science. I was also the trainer, etc. And definitely you can connect with me on LinkedIn by this link, or directly by the name. You can find me on the LinkedIn. And back to our cloud monitoring journeys, there is a topics we will have every Tuesday. Why it's Cloud Monitoring Tuesday? It will be every Tuesday evening UAE time. Session 45 minutes, depends on the questions, 45 minutes questions, 1 hour. Today we will talk about monitoring strategy and tools review. After that, because we will talk a lot today about Azure Services Health and Resource Health, and today and next Tuesday it will be August 2014s, 40s, yeah, 2040s, August 2040s. We will talk about more detailed about the Azure Services Health and Resource Health, how you can use it with alerts, you can use it with PowerShell, with Graph API, so which tools you can use to have the access to monitor, to resolve this issue, to look on the different issue, etc. So this is the second. After that, after next Tuesday, we will have the session about Azure Resource Activities monitoring with alerts and script, how we can look to the alerts activities, how we can generate alerts, how we can redirect the traffic to this from these alerts activities to different source, destination, etc. And because there is a lot of things related to the KUSTO language, we will talk about log analytics service, what is the log analytics tables, what is the log analytics solutions, why it's there, plus we will talk about the KUSTO language exactly. We will do the review of the KUSTO language, of the syntaxes, of the functions, how to build queries, which tools you can use to build the queries. Of course, you know these tools, it's Visual Studio Code with extensions, but anyway, we will discuss more deep dive. And as I mentioned before at the beginning, this series exactly special for you, to provide you practical knowledge and practical tools, and I will try to help you with this stuff, provide you ready to use KUSTO queries. We will review the different scenarios, how we can monitor and analyze the virtual machines performance, virtual machines issues, etc., backup storages, any other options like Azure Site Recovery, etc., with the KUSTO language. So I will give you outcome for this session. I will give you the ready to use scripts that you can apply anytime when you need. Same, we will review the same for the next. So it will be the 24th. I think next one will be 24th, 23rd. After that it will be 30th. It will be, this one will be 6th of September, and after that we will look how to create PowerShell automation runbooks to work with log analytics, what details you need to see, how to use different credentials, etc. It will be all about the PowerShell runbooks to work with log analytics, to do remediation script, to do the reporting script, analysis scripts, etc. It will be the date, I think 20th and 27th, something like this, of September. Just a second, sorry. And the last module of this series will be work with automation modules, manage identity to create full stack, and plus use the Azure Policy to work directly with, to configure any object, to work with log analytics, to work with monitor, to connect any object in Azure with log analytics, with Azure Monitor, and how to use the Azure Policy for this, and how to automatically assign options, etc. And today's topics, we will look on the different scenarios, how to monitor different events on the data center level, on the subscription level, on the application or services level, by different tools, by different activities in Azure. We will review the different options, how to work with these options with Azure Monitor, log analytics, alerts, programming tools, etc. And of course, how we can monitor different types in Azure and on-premise by Azure, and react on the different events. We will review this, and questions? Okay, if there's no any questions, let's continue. And the main part, let's see on the full picture and where we are, monitoring solution on the full picture. For the full picture, what I mean, I mean that when Microsoft say about the monitoring, etc., the monitoring is just a small part of the full picture that's named landing zone. Anytime when you are building the new solution, when you are moving, migrating your solution to the Azure, you have to understand how this, or plan how this solution will be placed in Azure, how it will work in Azure, what is the main options like security, like role access, like monitoring, like automation will be provided. And the answer on all these questions is a Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure, and the part of this scenario, name it a ready part, where you can find the landing zone. You can see the full landing zone here. This is the full structure of the landing zone, and here you can see on the middle, maybe main point, that's management groups and subscription organization, where you create the hierarchy of the management groups. Why? Because by these management groups, you can assign to each subscription, link it to exact management groups, some subscriptions, and it means when you link some subscription to some management groups, one to many or whatever, it means that all settings that you set for the management group, like Arc, like policy, will be inherited to the subscription and to all objects, and it means that after that all configuration, like how you want to backup, how you want to monitor, who has the access, etc., will be automatically applied to connected linked subscription. It's first main, let's say, point to discuss, point to build the landing zone at all, and how you will be able to manage after that the landing zone and subscription and resources inside subscription. Why it's important? Because when you, for example, need to decommission some subscription, you don't need to delete or block, etc., manually. You just relink, and move subscription, for example, from the management group like a corp to the management group decommission and decommissioned subscription, right? And the policies will be reassigned with new parameters, with the new security access, etc. Same when you have, for example, some subscription for sandbox, for QA, for dev, non-prod, prod, whatever. You just build the environment what you need, but this environment will be like just a application itself, right, with required network based on the strategy, etc. And to have this right configuration, you just link to the, for example, all non-prod management group. It will turn on by the policy log analytics and send the data exactly to correct log analytics that you need. It will be really good options here to manage it. For access, you will have exactly required account automation, for example, account that will be able to execute a required policy. This subscription will be available by all required tools. Same time, it's only about the landing zone. You have to build some platform environment around your subscription like identity subscription, if you need some Active Directory, I mean Windows domain Active Directory, if you need some additional options to store some identity, etc., you can build your own identity subscription. When you need to build connectivity subscription, you can build hub inside, etc., etc. You can create additional subscription, build your virtual one, or build your hub and spoke solution that you need, and control it also by the management group. And of course, you can build one or many log analytics workspaces as it's required by your strategy on the centralized management subscription that will be accessible only for the, for example, for the management and monitoring group. Not exactly, so like it's a bad idea to place any log analytics workspaces, etc., directly inside the landing zone subscription, but it should be placed here. And all centralized dashboards, all automation accounts for change tracking, for inventory, for updates management, all this stuff will be placed here too. So it means that we can go with exactly required place, right? So this is the full picture. And where we are, yeah, definitely we are here. So this is our management group, management subscription with all options, etc. And how it will work in reality, or how it will look in reality, you can see on this picture. So like when we are talking about the log analytics workspace, when we are talking about automation account, about the change tracking, about any of these things, dashboards, queries, etc., how in reality it works, you can see on this right place the common scenario. This common scenario provides us idea to collect some data based on the different options, based on the different scenarios. We have, you see, separate centralized monitoring subscription that's by the Azure automation account can take some data from the one of the important parts, like Azure Service Health, like Azure AD monitoring, like different Azure Resource Health and activity logs, to collect this data, analyze this data, and by this runbooks do some investigation, RCA, etc., or prediction, and by the automation account send over the API, like SendGrid or Office 365, send emails, send reports to administrative staff or people who is working with this data, like capacity, etc. Same time, we can assign for each event. We don't need, by the way, exactly each time automation runbook, but for example, if we just need to trigger alert by some events, we can easily generate the events for some solution. For example, Azure Service Health, we can look on the data center to better understand what's going on the data center. And if this data center going to maintenance mode, but it's bad idea, sorry. For example, if this data center has the issue with capacity or performance, etc., we can trigger the event. If we have some global crash, we can trigger the event alert, and send directly message to the administrators to look on this situation. But for example, for the automation scenario, will be better to have like okay, we check health, we found that data center is going on maintenance mode, or some services in data center is going on the maintenance mode from 1 a.m. until 6 a.m. week after next, we can set or generate just ITSM ticket, etc., or set some scheduling operations to switch workload from the current data center to the period data center. This is one of scenario. Yes, this is the questions. Do we really need this? Definitely yes. So like when we are talking about the landing zone, it's why I mentioned before the cloud adoption framework, that because the cloud adoption framework helps you to understand what options exactly you need, what is the decision options to build it. But in reality, for example, because we are talking all of you here right now, because we have monitoring discussion, right? So where you are planning to put monitoring on separate subscription with the different permissions, different rights, etc., with different policy. All this will be different from the landing zone. In perspective, who has the access to this, which team are working with this, etc., right? Where we will place all our workbooks. We don't want to put it on the landing zone subscription, workload subscription, because in case if it will be destroyed, rebuild it, etc., it's possible that you will lose this. But when you have it separately, you can manage it easily. And why we need exactly management groups? This is the point of management again. So maybe your infrastructure will not be like this, like a high enterprise level, right? But maybe you will use just like a platform, landing zone, decommission it, and sandbox. And in platform you will join, and on platform you will assign your permissions, your accounts, maybe someone other accounts to work exactly with management. But what will happen again with the landing zone, because we know that it will be destroyed or rebuild it, etc., and we don't want to assign manually all operations, we will just set the policy, Azure policy for the landing zone, and this policy will assign it's named DINE, deploy if not exist, will assign log analytics configuration, monitoring configuration for any object that will be presented here in your landing zone subscription. You see my point, right? So like you build the subscription, link it, configure it. No one can change the configuration, because people or administrator of this subscription will not be able to change options on the subscription level for monitoring. You did not provide this, etc. So this will be one of the main points. Again, so back to the discussion, do we need something else? Yes, definitely we need, because let's take this one, and the size, no size. And for example, do you need separate hub? Definitely you need separate hub, because again, hub is managed by another team with their own permissions, with their own policies. Maybe these machines, like application, will send the data to the log analytics one. This hub, all Azure, is it possible? No. whatever, Azure Firewall, ExpressRoute, etc., will send the data to another log analytics where you will provide the access for the networking group, right? These guys will not have this access, and we will not put all the data together for easiest management, etc., understanding RCA, etc. And again, so do you need the landing zone itself? Yes, for any subscription. At least when we have prod, non-prod, and sandbox, you can put it and you see sandbox, etc., to do the testing, to do the deployment, etc. Whatever you are building, will it be virtual machines? Will it be application? Will it be some PaaS services like a database, etc.? All this stuff have monitoring options, have monitoring settings, and you need to configure it, control it, and control the data. I mean, destination where it will be stored, right? So this is the why we need this subscription. Is it clear? But anyway, so like, to make the decision, what is your design consideration? Why you need this one? Why you need this, and this? It's a huge, let's say, hundreds of questions or options that you can find on the Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure, exactly on the landing zone. Maybe it will be better if I show you Azure Cloud Adoption Framework landing zone. This is the landing zone. This is the options, and look, here's the design areas, and here you can find all this consideration, what you need. So like what you need, overview, which type of design considerations you need here, and all of this will be here. And yes, so like again, so it's not only about infrastructure itself, it's about solution, any solution, IaaS, PaaS that you build, and you need it to place on Azure. Plus, for example, when we are talking about the management, how it will be inventory and visibility, how you can build this solution, protection, etc. You see there is a lot of options, compliance, how you manage and monitoring workloads, Azure access control, you see design and strategy, why you need segregate operational and secure data, and so on. Did I? Okay, so back to our discussion. So this is the one scenario. Second one scenario, when we are talking about the Azure Monitor that collects the data from the different virtual machines, from the different virtual networks, from the any other objects, because each object generates the metrics, generates the log in Azure, and this object can send the data to the Azure Monitor. This data can be stored on the Azure Monitor, not exactly to the Azure Monitor, but it's part like Azure Log Analytics. What's happened? You see, like Azure Backup or Azure Security Center, whatever. It's also the part of the Azure Monitor. Or connection monitor and network watcher. All this stuff are going to the log analytics. If you need these logs, etc., you can do the analysis by, again, log analytics, by the runbooks, to look for the reporting, for look for the some comprehensive logic, more detailed deep dive logic. You can anyway generate the same alert if something happens with the logs, if something happens exactly on the virtual machines metrics, etc. You can build some requests to the log to do more deep dive scenarios. But anyway, why we are talking about the runbooks? Because these runbooks provide us again additional logic on the log alert. We can just run some query and look on this query with the some ranges. Is it result, is this result lower, higher, etc., average, is it fine, not fine? But anyway, it's just like a one or a few metrics, right? When you need to look on this, in case of this we need to check that, and after that to check that, because these three options together should be combine it or analyze it with the different scenarios or with the different let's say levels or ranges. Only after that we can do the decision, or by the decision itself wants to run some options right now. This is exactly why we need runbooks. Also, by runbooks, it's easy to send some data to the different options like service now or anywhere, right? So like over the API to do the monitoring. So this is how your exactly this stuff will looks like. You can see, so like log analytics here with dashboards, with queries, etc. What alerting, what you need, how many you need, you will decide during design. Automation account to do the check tracking, also right for inventory, etc. But anyway, yeah, so this is the way how it works. And after that, to better understand what we are doing, we need to look on the Azure Monitor solution by the levels and components. What I mean by levels, this diagram, I think, shows you on the best way exactly the levels. Look, what we have here, we have three different levels to monitor any Azure solution. And when we start to talk about the monitoring any solution from the CPU or memory or number of the request, it's absolutely wrong way to go, because we have to start this discussion from the top level that I mentioned before. And this top level is, yeah, you correct, tenant itself, data center itself, Azure data center or Azure regions itself. And here you can see DC, Azure DC Health Automation, or Azure, what it's named, Azure Services Health level. It means that I discussed it before, I already explained it a little bit. It means that we always looking to the data center health, because you can have a perfect solution, high availability, etc., etc. But in one region, and if this one region, especially in our time, could be attacked or hacked, right? So backstaged, whatever, right? So you can have the issue with the data center at all. And look on it, understand it, look on the maintenance, look on the performance. It's a point to have always have at least configured alerts for the Azure Service Health. But alerts will just notify you, right? So like something happens. After that, administrator must go, must do some manual job, etc., etc. And you, if you understand, and if you have the disaster recovery plan, what you have to do with the data center crash, or some services on the data center crash, right, or global services crash, how to remediate it. It's why we need here automation. Easiest automation that just go to the logs, look on it, read the RCA, read the statuses, compare the statuses with some your small knowledge base, or even ITSM. Again, we can connect our automation to other systems and put the status for current system to the inside the ITSM, inside the CMDB, whatever, right? So like we can look on the, is it important or not important, that we can possibly lost some services, and how it's market on ITSM, on CMDB. Is it critical during the night or not? All this stuff could be checked and remediated, etc. So it's why important service health level, where we can check a critical issue, again look on it, parse the results, etc., without going to the portal, without reading some information, just send it. This is ready to use RSA, React on the maintenance, and we can build different dashboards, alerts, reports, or send over the external API, again, to the SendGrid, to the ServiceNow, PRTG, whatever, right? So any of this stuff could be resolved on the top level. Same time, you can see here some, again, it's tenant level, because it's global service, not data center related, but global level. And if you have Azure Active Directory Premium, you will be able to see Azure AD monitoring, that it's optional, but maybe not. And by the API or by the central activity log that you can send the data, also we will talk about this. You can look what's going on with your Active Directory, not only about like a user logging, but service itself, how it works, what's going on, what's happened, etc., etc. Questions? Oh, okay. No questions. Okay. So the second level, it's also important, and even more important than when you collect just CPU counters or memory counters, etc. Why? Because on the Azure you can do the resource health check, resource health level. It means that you can look on the virtual machine or some other services. There's a huge list, and by the way, we will discuss this service and this service on exactly on the next our Tuesday, Cloud Monitoring Tuesday. We will discuss it, how to work, etc. But main idea again, so like a list, I will provide you list, links to this. We have virtual machine. Virtual machine can looks like fine and working, but in reality we can have the issue with machine because rack is overloaded and lost the performance, or instead to have 3 disk instances, disk copy, right? This machine connected only to the 2, or lost physical host lost some of the NICs connectivity, I mean, or maybe physically, right? So like all this stuff can happen in Azure because it's huge hyperscaler, hypervisor, right? So like it can happen. It's data center, it's physical hardware, it's different level of abstraction, etc. But inside the virtual machine, you will not know what's going on. But in terms of Azure Resource Health, you can look on it, and if machine will be marked like a degraded, you can understand that this machine right now is on danger and could not work perfectly or like expected. Maybe because we lost two of this disk, right? And just only one copy is left. Maybe this copy will be disconnected soon too. In my experience, if you see the degraded virtual machine, typically in 5-15 minutes, it will be crashed. It's like a machine at all. So like you can check this, you can analyze this and say, look, this machine is in degraded state and we can do some remediation tasks. Maybe if this machine right now is active part of the cluster, we need to switch cluster to the to another active node, and this machine will be lost, and we are not care after that, right? So like just will know that it will happen, and before it's happened and cluster will switch, just look that something happens, etc. We will just switch all workloads without losing the memory, without losing anything, right? So like just on the standard failover mode, let's say, right? So we can analyze this, we can look on it, we can check instances, we can check different scenarios, etc. Plus, on the subscription level, we have a lot of activity logs, like activity log for advisor, activity logs for the policy, activity log for administrative access operations, scales, etc., auto scales, right? Availability test, Azure Active Directory. All of this stuff could be also checked in terms of is it okay or not okay. For advisor, it's again, we don't need to go to the advisor every time. We can look on it. We can, for example, advisor recommends to do some changes on the virtual machines to cut the spans, right? What we can do, we can analyze this by the automation. Can we? Yes, we can. We can take over API, over Microsoft Graph, etc. We can take all of this data, look to the machines. We can connect and get the list of the machines that propose, that generate the right report, provide some additional, for example, performance counters, provide some additional events, etc. of this option, and send it to the appropriate team with, again, more preferred way, with more preferred format. This is how it works, right? And yeah, it's really important to look on the logs, to understand even the administrative logs, who is stopping what, why it's again important to handle over this, etc. And back to the main situation, typical monitoring, that's it, well known, and definitely we will talk a lot about the cloud solution or application health level when we monitoring exactly the status of the operation system, not virtual machines, because virtual machines are here. Virtual machine is object of Azure. We can know the health of the virtual machine by asking Azure, but here we're asking virtual machines to provide us information about the operation system, about the instances, what's going on, are there enough capacity in terms of their own memory, their own CPU, not hardware, CPU or memory, right? So all this stuff, we can look on it, check on it, and do a lot of things with monitoring. And most important things, even not look on the like collect vital signs, right? To look on it, but it's more important to do the something like performance and capacity forecasting and planning of this solution. What it means? It means that we will talk about this on the KUSTO session. It means that we can look on the log analytics that store from 30 days to 7 years, right? The data, 7 years, 2 years, 700 days. We can look on the log analytics for collected data and do the analysis, do the forecasting, do the trending, do the abnormal search by the KUSTO language on the log analytics, just to analyze it and look on it to be sure that, for example, we are on the right path in terms of capacity, for example, of CPU. We collect the CPU, we look on it and we can find the trend. We can find the dependencies between, for example, CPU utilization and number of the connection, and compare this one and predict more detailed way. And we can do this exactly inside the Azure Log Analytics by KUSTO. And here, for example, I have 2 weeks before with the disk space, free disk space, and I have the trends, I have abnormals forecasting, and I can, for example, predict from this 2 weeks for next 3-5 days, typically 3 days, that disk will go down. So like I don't need to put space run out. I don't need to put this parameter like 10% or 15% and after that react. I can put it again, so not when it's happened, but 3 days before it happens, and look on it, even months before, and say, guys, look, we have the trends. We right now on 10%. Right now we are, or even we are on 11%, and we will reach the 10% only in 3 months. So we don't need to be care right now, but in 1 month we need to plan some maintenance for these machines, what we will do, etc., etc. All this stuff exactly here on these operations, right? Like RC also, etc. So issue prediction, all of what we can do here, it's here. Questions? Okay, if there's no any questions here, let's see the technology tree and how we can work with it and what we can do, because we are quite run out of time. For the technology tree, what we can do, there is again levels that we discussed before, and here you can see Azure Service Health, how you can get the access to Azure Service Health. You can do this over the portal, you can do this over the API directly, REST API calls, you can do this over the Microsoft Graph. Anyway, API or Microsoft Graph you can use with the Azure CLI. By the way, new version of Azure CLI allows you to run REST API directly from the command prompt, from the AZ command, right? You can run the alerts and build the alerts to react on some operations, etc., etc. And also you can do the Azure AD monitoring, and again it's required to have premium access, premium licenses for the Azure AD monitoring. But anyway, to do this, to work with this stuff, we need 5 minutes. It says 5 minutes left. To work with this stuff, we need to use the Azure AD monitoring with API. Again, we can use the portal to look on it. By portal, I mean portal itself to do some operations. Plus, you can use the some workbooks, dashboards. All of this means portal, right? And yes, you can send, as I mentioned before, all information about Azure AD monitoring to the log analytics to look what's going on, how it works, what we have to check. And this stuff, this option like Azure Health, how to work, how to create alerts manually, I mean by portal or by the templates. We will talk how to work with the Microsoft Graph, which commands you have to use, the scripts, all of this stuff. We will about this stuff we will talk next session, next Tuesday. The same for the Azure Resource Health on the subscription level. On the subscription level, as I mentioned before, we can take the data, the information about the status of virtual machine or another service on the subscription level, and it will be again portal. You can look on the portal. We will see it after. You can work with API. You can use the Microsoft Graph. You can build the alerts based on the resource health to work on it. Plus, activity logs. There is a list of activity logs, and again, you can connect to the activity logs by API or Microsoft Graph, or use the portal, or you can send these activity logs also to the log analytics and use it after that like a standard part of the Azure Monitor. So like you can connect by KUSTO, do some operations from the Azure automation, etc. directly from here. And solution, what I mean, level that I mentioned, like application parameters, vital signs, operation system vital signs, how it works. It's all about Azure Monitor. So like back to our beginning of the discussion, when you're talking about the Azure Monitoring, it's not always just about the Azure Monitor, because you see a lot of things outside exists outside the Azure Monitor, but Azure Monitor provides you the best scenario to work with the exactly solution health, solution monitoring, etc. At first, you have their data collection rules that allow you to define, for example, for the virtual machines, which data we need to select and where it must be sent. We will talk about again on one of our next meetings. We will look on the log analytics like a part of the data collection rules. By the way, data collection rules also has the transformation rules. Maybe you don't need to get the old data. You want to delete some rows or some columns to cut the size, because you are paying when you store the data, or inside the log analytics you are paying by the size of the log analytics database. You can send the data to, or look on the data of the metrics that exist outside the log analytics for some time range, to look on it, to monitor, to analyze, etc. You can do the alerts, of course. You can do the workbooks with by analyzing the log analytics, by analyzing metrics, by analyzing status, etc. You can do the change analysis. You can do the insights. That's insights itself is additional, let's say, plugins for the Azure Monitor that's allowed to collect exactly the data, for example, from the virtual machine, and transform this data to well understanding workbooks, like connectivity, what exactly machine is this machine is doing right now, where it's connecting, etc., just by analyzing the log inside log analytics that machine sent. So for different solutions, different insights are present, again based on the specific of each type of the Azure object. And here also Azure Arc. Azure Arc is, let's say, subsystem, but I would like to put it separately of Azure Monitor, because it's allow you to bring not only send the data like to the log analytics or alerts, but bring you objects from outside of Azure, like virtual machines on premise, in other clouds, and get the information from these machines operation systems and manage it, monitor it, control it, etc. with Azure systems. So like Azure Arc, it's a really good part to monitor your non-Azure instances. And Azure Automation, as I mentioned before, there is a lot of stuff, there is a lot of things that you can do with Azure Automation, like change tracking, change management, update management, and also you can send this data, or in reality Azure Automation automatically sends this data to the log analytics, and you can use this for your change tracking options, like control which files change it on the inside the operation system, what is services were installed, etc. Plus you can also, by the Azure Monitor, by agents, collect the and by the data collection rules, collect the system logs of Windows or Linux collected inside the log analytics for the next steps. And yeah, so this is a, let's say, short review. Unfortunately, we have no time to do the Azure Monitor for now. We are definitely run out of time. Thank you for joining. Anyway, trust me, next our session will be full of demos, full of presentation, and thank you for joining. I think, do we have questions? And here's my contact. You always can find me by email. It's another one, but also works. I need to change it. You can easily find me on the LinkedIn, my YouTube channel, my website. Unfortunately, on my native language, there is no any English. Twitter, 50-50, let's say. But on the LinkedIn, I am trying to mix 50-50 also, and here for the technical stuff. And of course, you can scan and look for additional information from the Microsoft site, from the Microsoft Learn, to know. And back to our schedule for the next Cloud Monitoring Tuesday. It will happen 23rd of August. We will talk about the Azure Service Health and Resource Health, and how we can work with the alerts or with the PowerShell and Graph APIs for this stuff. So see you next Tuesday, and thank you again for visiting. I think we can stop. Unfortunately, I have next meeting in 10 minutes. Yes. Yeah. No, I'm not working for AT Salat for now. Yeah. Uh, mm, I'm planning to visit the GITEX on October. I'm planning to be on GITEX in Dubai. For now, I'm at home in Slovakia, but I'm continue to work with the UAE customers, and if you need some consultancy, etc., I have my own company in Slovakia. You can pay me directly there. Okay, anyway, or just contact Microsoft Office, and they will find team will find you for you someone who can consult you about these questions to build this solution. But anyway, again, what I'm trying to say is that it's not something like a really rocket science for now, because it's very well written and very well defined documentation. Plus, when we are talking about the landing zone, exactly, there is a lot of templates that you can already apply, like ready to use accelerators in Azure. You know what is accelerator. Maybe you need to look on this, like a click, right? So like a which subscription you will use for connectivity. Do you need to deploy what type of connectivity you need to deploy there, like Azure Firewall, ExpressRoute, VPN gateway. All this stuff will be configured automatically by this accelerator. You just need to point on the different subscriptions in one tenant. The list of the management groups also will be created. So it's a really good point to work there. Okay, again, thank you for joining. Sorry, I have to rush my contacts, and do not forget to visit by the QR code. And see you next Tuesday, same time in UAE Cloud Monitoring.